Well, hello there. I know things look a little bit different, this particular podcast, and I'm kind of excited about that. To be honest, this has been a huge pain to get on video and to get on the podcast, which makes me believe that the enemy just doesn't want it out there. That somebody needs to be watching this, and it's going to bring a change for freedom for somebody, and I'm excited about that. Let me just kind of give you the backstory on what I'm talking about. Sunday, normally, as you know, we tape our podcast on Sundays just live. We both do audio with a CD boner, and we also do the video, which is what you're seeing here. In this particular week, everything just kind of fell apart. The counter was bumped in such a way that the CD recorder in the middle of the message opened up, and so we lost the audio message, which normally wouldn't be a huge deal because then we could just take the video message and record off of it, the audio podcast. But me, being the dope that I am, forgot to take some things off of the memory of the video camera, so it went out of memory halfway through the talk, and it shut down. So, a few days later, after that, Thursday, was what day it is now, I thought, well, I'll just redo it. And so I set everything up, and I was up on the stage, and next thing you know, after we just fixed all the sound problems, we started having all these really bad static issues going on. And I'm like, argh! So I gave up on that and set this up, and just was talking straight to the camera, but I forgot to take and unplug the microphone, so it didn't work. So, for crying out loud, I've probably given this message a billion times now, but I'm convinced this message is for you. I'm convinced it's for somebody out there that needs freedom in their life. I've now unplugged the phone, I've locked the door, I put a sign for no one to bother us. So unless if an airplane plows into this building, we're going to get this message on video, so that you can consider some of the things that God has for us. So let me talk a little bit about where we're at. We're in the middle of the Rise series, which is talking about important topics. So far we talked about like marriage, parenting, being parented, finances, all kinds of different things that we've talked about where people are struggling, where the enemy's getting in and they're trying to suck people into muck and mire instead of the freedom that God has for us. And I mean big issues. And so we've been going through them, getting into the Word, learning what God's instruction is, because according to the Word, it promises if we look at His ways, if we look at His stanzas, if we look at His instruction, and do it, and when it gets hard, we continue to do it, that our life will be blessed. And we want to be blessed in these areas and find freedom. So that's what we're plugging into. Now the first half of this week's message was kind of a halftime speech. And that is on a separate podcast that you can find either on our YouTube channel, or you can go to theshepherdsfellowship.org, which may be what you did to find this, and go to our online messages and see that video. It's just called Rise Halftime. And it goes through Hebrews 10, and if you're going through any struggle today and you just need some encouragement about how much God loves you and who we are in Christ, go watch that. It's a 10-minute video, and that'd be a great encouragement. But this one is recapturing the workplace talk, talking about our ministry, our life, our freedom, our responsibilities, our joy within the workplace for those of us who are called to work. For various reasons. Now, again, not everybody does. Some people are retired, some people volunteer and work hard, some people are stay-at-home moms or dads that work hard and glorify the Lord through their efforts. But most of us are called into some sort of work-type environment for multiple reasons. Of course, the first one coming to mind for most of us is we got to pay the bills. So I want to talk about workplace to you today and how we can rise above what the world sees as frustration and challenging and see a bigger purpose. Because quite frankly, for most of us, I can't say most of us, but for at least a lot of us, we might be really struggling today because we have boiled down our jobs to a means to an end. That I've got to work to get a paycheck. I got a paycheck to pay the bills, and they don't cover all the bills, so I'm even more frustrated that I have to spend all this time for work when it seems like I'm just stuck in the system anyways. And when we get to that point, we have challenges. So let's dig into this scripturally. Let's dig into this encouragement-wise and see what God might have for us. The first question I asked when I did my study was this: why do we work? And I looked at the scripture, and I found a couple that were kind of interesting. First one was Ecclesiastes 5:18 through 19, and the author writes this. He says, "This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat and to drink and to find satisfaction in the toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot." It is good to work. It's good to enjoy the work, toilsome work. And it's good to enjoy the benefits that comes from that work. So what are those benefits, and what are those things that we need to be focusing on? With some questions I got raised I want to answer today with you. The other thing I got to thinking about while I was looking at that is that a lot of people that I know, that I'm friends with, that I care about, that I love, seem to be in kind of crisis mode, again, something that we'll cover, because they can't find the job that they're happy with. They can't find the job that is them, or they have a dream of starting their own company. They have all these different things that someday it will be this. So until that happens, I'll just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of give up. It just doesn't seem to be worth it, because I'm just waiting for that day. We have to be careful in that zone too, because in Proverbs 12:11, it says, those who work their land, those who do their work, will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies have no sense. So we are workers, we are planners, we are those who are disciplined, and that we are moving forward. According to the halftime top, we are not those who shrink back and are destroyed, we're those who stand up and accomplish. Because quite frankly, no one is going to champion you in the workplace more than you. So what does God call us to do, and what's our benefit there? So these started raising a lot of different questions in my mind. I started listing down things, and started studying things of why should we work? What benefits are there? And the first one I'll suggest to you is maybe a little bit different than what our first response was as far as a means to an end. And it's this. For a lot of us, if not all of us, we work because we serve others. If we get into the scripture, it's very clear that a big lot of our life is to bring glory to the name of the Lord by serving one another. And our workplaces give us that opportunity. A lot of people don't want to go out and evangelize and go out the streets and knocking on doors and everything else. It's just so intimidating. But you might work in a retail place where people come in and see you. People come in and want to talk to you. You're not chasing anybody down. You're not doing anything outside the norm. You're on your home turf. It's the place where you work. And you have opportunities to show them love and show them respect and show them the character of Christ by the way that you work. Not hiding behind the counter board looking at, Harlequin romance or playing solitaire on the computer, but being attentive and caring about their needs because they came in there for a reason. You have an opportunity to serve. Maybe you're not in retail. Maybe you're in an office environment. You have the opportunity to serve your co-workers. You have an opportunity to serve your boss. Maybe you have phone responsibilities where you're calling and soliciting. You have an opportunity to show respect and care in those areas and look for people's real needs instead of just trying to, get your goals in place. We have an opportunity to serve as well as meet our own needs. And we do work to provide for our needs, absolutely. But we have to go bigger than that, or else we're just going to boil it down to a frustration instead of an awesome, awesome responsibility that we have within God. Let me share with you this story just from my own past, if you haven't heard it already. I came up to Marion about 13 years ago. And I came up here, the primary reason, the first reason, besides my wife, who I met and loved and got married to, was to be a youth pastor at a little church in Prospect for 10 hours a week. Now, I was living in Columbus on the east side. I had to kind of commute back and forth. To do so, I had to give up a job that I loved. I was an operation manager for a tuxedo company down there. We had 3 stores, getting ready to open a couple more. I had a great responsibility, but I also had good pay, and there was a responsibility that I loved, and I also had some freedom over my own schedule and the way that my job played out. I loved it. But I had to quit it because retail was not the type of schedule, especially operation manager of retail, that matched up with a ministry schedule up here an hour away. So I left that job, took this position. That's a great testimony of what God did. I'll explain that some other day too. You can ask me if you see me. But I had to find a job to meet my needs. I couldn't pay my rent. I couldn't pay the gas with the commute. I couldn't take care of myself and my son on the pay of just 10 hours a week youth pastor job. So I took a job in the only other industry I really worked in, and that was medical billing. I had a couple years experience there, so I started looking for a job because the office schedule matched what I needed. And I got offered 2 jobs, but I took one called Comprehensive Medical on Sawmill Road, mostly because of the environment that I perceived that they offered. I should put it that way. See, when I worked in offices before, I hated it. There was so much politics and backstabbing and gossip and drama. I just didn't want to go back to it. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. So this one position at CompMed was over electronic billing. That I did the electronic billing for these agencies. And that was, in 2000, kind of a niche position. See, there's 100 people in this company, give or take, and 99 of them dealt with paper billing. Most of the billing was paper billing. But I'd be the only one working on electronic billing, which means I got my own office, I got my own computer, I got my own printers, and I could be away from everybody else and not have to deal with the politics and the junk that comes with the office environment. In other words, I was all about providing my needs, but I really didn't want to serve anybody. You with me? But here's how God works, because he's kind of funny sometimes. And in this position that I was in the company I was in, they were in a transition mode, and they were building their own building. So we were kind of in these little areas that they had leased and kind of pieced together to kind of work for a year or two until they could get their own place. And out of all those people that did the paper billing, they obviously needed a huge copy machine that serviced everybody. But however, there's no place for that copy machine in the common areas. There's no place in any other office. There's only one place that had enough space to put that copy machine, which was my office, which meant all of those 99 people were going in and out of my office constantly all day long. So me avoiding people became it was my worst nightmare. They were everywhere. They were everywhere. They were constantly in my office, wanting to know the new guy, found out I was a Christian, found out I did ministry and whatnot, and wanted to start conversations as they were waiting for their copies to get done. Here's what God did though. I was doing as much ministry out of Comp Med as I was at the church, which would have really freaked out the owners of Comp Med, just to let you know. But here's what they were doing. They were coming in, they were basically talking to me like I was their bartender. They were telling me all the challenges they were going through, their family was going through, and we were getting advice from me. And then we would pray together about those situations. And then they would come back a week later, 2 weeks later, saying, hey, remember when we prayed about my daughter? This is what happened. This is what God did. And they were excited, and I was able to share in their stories as well as their struggles. And I realized just how important it is for me to see any place I'm at as my mission field. And I was able to have deep relationships, loving relationships that brought glory to God's name. And some of you guys have those opportunities, and you're not taking them. And God, I really think, might be just saying, and having you watch this video, because you need to get a bigger understanding of what He wants to do in your workplace with you. So that's one of the reasons we work, to serve people, to provide our own needs, to provide for our families' needs. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially their own household, is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Sometimes we go through crisis situations and we need others to help us. That's great for a season. For me, my first wife left, I had to rent the house that we owned, trying to save ourselves financially, and so I moved in with my folks again. And they had me throughout the week, and I had my son. I had my son every weekend, so they gave us our own living space by utilizing the basement and my old bedroom and whatnot. My parents didn't have a lot of resources, but they took care of me, and they were thrilled to do that. I have great parents. But I also knew I had to take and live up to the responsibility of my son and myself, and use that time to rebuild myself those 4 or 5 months so I could find my own place and have resources for us, that we are to meet our family needs. If you are maybe in a split household, and you maybe had a divorce, providing for your family matters. Taking and paying your child support, taking and making sure that your children are taken care of. If you're together, making sure your spouse take care of, and the household responsibilities take care of. These are huge. This is what we're called to at 1 Timothy 5:8, that we are to provide for our relatives and for our own households. The other thing is that we earn money to help others. Let's make sure we're consistent with the finances. It's not just about taking care of me and my family, but it's also taking care of others when I have extra. It says in Ephesians 4:28, it says, we must work doing something useful with our own hands, that you may have something to share with those in need. That we have a responsibility to help each other. Sometimes we're the one in the crisis situation. But when we're not, we need to be able to reach back and be able to help others. And we are called to honor God. How we act at work reflects Him. If they know you are a Christian, how you act reflects Him. If you raise a flag by saying, hey, at church this week, they're now watching you, what you do reflects Him. Have you thought about that recently in your workplace? Have you thought about that in your work ethic? Even if you don't have a job, have you thought about how others see you through your work ethic and how you see responsibility, stewardship, and discipline? These are things to really consider. So let's go through some of these things. I always like to start with the crisis mode, because I know sometimes people listening to this are in the worst case scenarios. In the workplace, the crisis mode might be that you don't have a job. And that's pretty common up here in Marion County. If you're not in Marion County, kind of count your blessings a little bit, because Marion County is considered the worst poverty levels county in all of Ohio. I have several friends that don't have work. And so it's very tough up here that a lot of people are in that case. I know a lot of people that have given up looking. I know people that have tried applying for jobs and doing interviews for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and have just said, you know what, I give up. And I've just decided to live in that bucket mile. I know people who scrounge money out of the couch to be able to have enough gas money to get to the store and be able to buy a gallon of milk. A lot of us take that stuff for granted, but people are living in that case scenario. And for some of them, it is easier to live in that kind of crisis situation than it is to keep applying for jobs and to keep trying to go out and just dealing with the rejection and the disappointment that comes with looking at a job. That's a crisis situation. Other people that might be in a crisis situation are those that have jobs that are unstable. There are people, again, who might have a ton of hours. Maybe you do construction, get a ton of hours in the summer, and you try to save back a little bit to provide in those winter months when it's all gone, but then you needed to get new tires for the car and it's all gone. So it's February now, we're all struggling. Or maybe you're in retail. Again, retail, this is a big one too. In November, December, your boss is like, oh, can you do me a favor? Can you work this weekend? Can you work extra hours? Can you stay open late? Can you come in early? It's Christmas, we need you, we need you. Come on, just as a favor to me. But come January, when the customers are gone, they don't care about favors to you. You know, I mean, some of you guys have been in that boat, right? January comes and there's not the business, and what I got worried about is the boss at the bottom line, so I'm going to cut you back to 10 hours, and I don't care if you have gas money, I don't care if you have food money, I don't care if you have babysitting money. Sometimes there's a tough situations that we're in, and that can be a crisis situation. And you might say, well, I have no control over that. I have no control of getting customers in the door. Well, you might have control over going in through some of these points to find a new position, a new job, a new line of work that has more foundation under it so that you're not in crisis mode with your family like you are now. So those are some tough situations to be into. So what pointers or what tips can I pass on to you that might be able to help out? Well, let me give you this one. The first one is apply. Apply, 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 apply. Look for jobs, look for jobs. Do not give up. Do not just put it asunder. Just take and keep trying and going out there and looking for those opportunities. The jobs are out there. They're just harder now. At least for this season, they're harder now. But don't give up and live and muck and mire like that's your new normal. Because it's not. You've got to move forward. So applying, let's say you're in the Marion area. And this might be true actually for a lot of different areas, depending on who's watching this. CareerBuilder.com is a good resource. The internet has really opened up some opportunities for us to get educated on companies we're applying for, plus the jobs that are out there. So maybe CareerBuilder.com, where you can put in your zip code and it brings up different jobs that are available in your community. It might be a great tool. If you're in Marion and you can't find CareerBuilder.com, go to MarionStar.com and hit Classifieds. That's who they use to power their search engines. Using staffing agencies. A lot of people don't like to go through temp agencies just for that reason. I don't want something that's temporary. I want something that's going to last more than 2 months. I don't want to be worried about whether or not I have a job here in a few weeks. In the day and age we live in, a lot of employers are now using temp agencies so they can try out employees instead of just hiring somebody and then getting stuck with them if they're not a good employee. It's kind of a new norm for the time being. So if you go to a temp agency and get a job, a lot of times what that employer is saying is, I want to try you on and see if you're responsible, see if you're diligent, and see if it's somebody I want to bring on full time. And using those opportunities, I've got a friend right now, did just that, got a job about 7 months ago through a temp agency. Within 2 months they brought her on full time. She's already getting another raise right now. She's on her way to doubling her income within a year because she took that chance and worked hard at that temp agency. That particular company, I know the boss that hired her in, just called me yesterday and said she is doing such a great job. Can you recommend another her? You recommended her. Can you recommend me somebody like that? We've tried other people, and we're having problems because some people going to temp agencies don't really care if they get hired on or not. It's not that hard to shine, okay, if you do some of the things we're going to be talking about. But he said, can you get me somebody, because we want another Amber. We want another her. Somebody that would go through this process, prove themselves, and become part of our team. So staffing agencies do work if you're willing to work yourself. Network, talking to other people. People talk to me and say, hey, I'm looking for jobs. Other people say, I'm looking for employees. Taking and working those kind of relationships, looking for signs and what things are open, and putting the word out there, and casting a wide net, and not just, I want these hours, I want this pay, and I want this responsibility. You can over-narrow your scope and keep yourself out of work for a lot longer. And some of us, quite frankly, need to widen our scope. Marion Connections, if you're in Marion, Ohio, they have a great website. it takes and shows the different positions that are available in town. So applying, getting your name out there. Working on your job searching skills. Some of us could really need to improve in some areas. We just had in our local paper, again, Marion Star, 2 weeks ago about soft skills and how people need to be working on soft skills. And as someone who's been an employee or has been in a boss position several times in different environments, so I was reading this article, it really rang true to me because it's amazing how many people just don't have the basic skills to succeed. For instance, some of the things they talked about is having a good, real handshake. It really does make a difference. It shows whether or not you're firm and confident without being a goofball. You know, those type of things. How you dress for an interview, how you dress for work, how you speak in an interview, how you speak at work, the responsibility that you bring in, your personal hygiene, whether or not you show up on time. If you show up late for an interview, you probably aren't going to get the job. If you call someone in an interview and say, hey, look, my child care fell through. Sorry, can I reschedule? You're not going to get that job. Because now they're thinking, okay, is that going to be what, once a week? Once a month? I mean, how often are you going to be a challenge to us because you can't find child care? Having dependable transportation. Those things matter when you're looking for jobs. So working on those soft skills and making sure that you present yourself well in the mediums that you have. You should have a great resume. You should have a great cover letter. Cover letters are more important now than they have been in the past. There are agencies to help you with that. If you know me and you need a resume or a cover letter, talk to me. I'll help you find those resources because it's very easy to do. But I was just talking to a buddy of mine, Joey Euler, who comes to our church, and she works with Bridges Out of Poverty here in Marion. She was saying they just had a meeting the other day, and they were saying that you have 7 seconds on paper to impress somebody to get an interview. And if you don't have that 7 seconds, if they don't look through and they say, okay, this is somebody I want to talk to, you're going to end up in a file someplace, and they're never going to talk to you. That's just the job market that we're in. Having a good resume, having a good cover letter. Working with the agencies to improve your skills. There's education to help you in some of these areas. In our area, Job and Family Services have some great classes and opportunities. Salvation Army does. Tri-Rivers Adult Education is another great resource. And if you're dealing with a medical challenge, or maybe you're coming out of prison and you're trying to re-enter into community, in our area, another friend of mine at church, Sandy, works with Goodwill. And Goodwill has great programs that can help you re-enter or to take and get job skills or job opportunities, even though you have some medical challenges. So those are some of the things you can do. And the last one I would give you as you're going through crisis mode is follow through. Follow through with that resume. Follow through with that application. If you drop off a resume and they say, well, we're going to start interviews in a couple of weeks, you'll probably hear from us then. Then call them in a couple of weeks and just say, I know you're getting ready to start the interview process. I was wondering, is there anything else that you need from me as you're looking at your applicants? Don't call them and say, hey, I dropped off my application. What's going on with that? That doesn't sound professional. It does sound self-seeking. What do you need from me? What else can I do? So that they see that you care and that you're following through and you're a go-getter. Remove you from the bottom of the list to the top every single time. Don't over-follow through. I remember when we had the store, we'd get applications all the time. And sometimes people call and say, hi, I dropped off my application, was wondering what was going on with that. I dropped off last week. Well, my staff gave it to me. I appreciate it. We don't have any openings right now, but if a job opens, I'll give you a call, and we'll set up an interview time. Now, the appropriate thing to do is to check back in 6 months and just say, it's been a while, just wondering if there's any opportunities, if there's anything else you need from me. That's appropriate. To call in a week from after I said that comment and say, hey, what's going on? I got my application. Do you have any openings yet? Now you're annoying. Now you're showing me part of your personality that you're going to be kind of a high-maintenance employee and you're not going to be hired. So make sure you follow through. Don't get to the point of overdoing it, but make sure you follow through and show that you care and that you're diligent and that you're professional. If it's been more than 6 months, like I just said, reapply. If it's been more than 6 months, you're now in a file someplace or you're in a trash can someplace. Reapply. They get a lot of applications. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that are starting looking for jobs, really wish they were working at this company or that company, and say, have you ever applied there? Well, yeah. Well, how long ago? Well, a year and a half ago. You're not really in the running anymore. You need to go reapply. You need to drop off a new resume and start that ball again. And then also just don't give up. This is probably the hardest one for some of us. We are tired of rejection. We're tired of the disappointment. We're tired of the run now. Don't give up. There's jobs out there. There's opportunities out there. Keep seeking so that you have these opportunities to serve others to provide for your needs, provide for your family, help others, and to serve your God. So let's move from crisis into employee. We're just going to kind of keep the ball rolling. When I start looking at employee, if you have your Bibles, we'll go to Ephesians 6. Ephesians 5, at the end of that, is talking about marriage. The beginning of 6 is talking about parents. There's a section here called slaves and masters, and some of us might feel just that way about our work environment. But in their context, for their day, this is very similar. This is pretty much what bosses and employees would be like. So I want to read through this because there's some instructions from the Word to us on how we're to behave as employees, how we're to act according to the Scripture, as well as to bosses, and we'll just kind of go through this. And this is what I'm going to I'm going to change slaves with employees and masters with bosses the best I can. A couple might slip through, but just to make it easier for our conversation. But I don't want you to think I'm like messing with the Scripture to make it sound like it's saying something it's not. So, anyways, employees. If you got your Bibles, it's Ephesians 6, verses 5 through 8 says this: slaves, so employees, obey your earthly bosses with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but like slaves to Christ or employees of Christ, do the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not men, because you know that the Lord will reward everyone for whatever good he does, whether he is free or slave or free. In that one paragraph, some of us need to be challenged. The attitude we're supposed to be taking to our workplace as employees should already be challenged. We are called to treat our bosses with respect, that we are supposed to be sincere of heart and obey them like we would obey Christ, that we're to be working to win their favor, that we are to serve them wholeheartedly. These are things that we're called to do as employees, and a lot of us aren't doing it. Some of us are spending too much time worrying about whether we're right or wrong, and the boss is a jerk. You know, those type of things. That's not what the Bible calls us to do. We are to be on their team, and we are to serve them as we're serving Christ. So there's some things that we need to look at from an employee standpoint. The first thing I want to throw out to you, the first point I have, is if you have a job today, and if it's not, you know, who you're meant to be or what you're supposed to do, go back to crisis mode and keep looking for a job. But as long as you're there, as long as you got that job, as long as you have that income, as long as you have those opportunities, be thankful. Be thankful. Psalms 128:2 says, "You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours." Be thankful, because it's going to provide for those needs. It's going to give you those opportunities that we talked about to serve and to take care of others. Ecclesiastes 3:22 says, "I saw that there is nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because it's their lot." There's nothing better. Enjoy your job, man. If you can do that for 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, 70 hours a week, that is great. Enjoy your job. Be thankful for your job, especially in these days when jobs are kind of harder to find. When there's people around you that are struggling so hard, and you have finances. Maybe you can't cover all the bills, but you're covering a lot more than a lot of other people are. Or maybe you do have a little bit extra. Every time you can take your family to the movies, be thrilled that you have those resources because of the fruit of your labor. Make sure that you are thankful for the job that you have. The next thing is, as long as you're there, be successful. Be successful in your job. Be the best employee that's there. How do you do that? A few things. Show up with a good attitude. Come in with some joy. Show up ready to work. I can't tell, especially in the office environment, not retail too, just a lot of places. But people come in and they're just upset, or they're just not looking forward to it, or they got that Monday morning attitude. They're just being normal. They're being like everybody else. Shine. Be better than that. Come in with a good, expectant heart. Come in with some excitement. Don't show up at 9 o'clock. Definitely don't show up at 9 or 5. If you start at 9, don't show up late. Okay, that's the first thing. And if you show up at 9, your schedule will be at 9, don't be one of those people that come in and at 9 o'clock you're putting your coat away. Or 9 o'clock you're getting your cup of coffee. Or 9 o'clock you're in the bathroom. You know, that you came in at 8:59 so you can clock in. So I'm here, I started at 9. Your boss sees you're not at your desk. Your boss sees you're not doing your work. Impress them. Come in, and it says you're ready to start at 9. This is my example. Come in and be ready to go at 9. And if you really want to go the extra mile, be ready to go at 2 till 9. Be above the rest. It takes hardly any work whatsoever. It takes a little bit of an attitude adjustment, and you will shine in front of your employees. Come in with a good attitude. Be on time. Don't be the first one out the door. Don't be sitting there, 2 till 5, looking at the clock, ready to go. I had an employee at one time. We closed our store at 8:30. I stopped by her store at 8:15. She didn't know I was going to be there. Sign said closed. She's back doing the books because she wanted to get out early. Don't be that employee. It adds to your troubles when you get fired. It adds to your troubles when your boss is writing you. And then you're like, oh, they're so mean, they're always on me. You're the one who did it. They should be on you. That's your accountability. Take and be a person that brings joy, that's a hard worker, and is committed to be in. Don't bring your problems to work. That's a tough one. Some of us have maybe a relationship with our boss where we can talk to him about some things at home. That's great, but don't overdo it. Watch your boundaries. Watch that closely. I've seen what happens when somebody is going through troubles at home. And I had a friend, she would come to a workplace and she would spend a couple hours in the stairwell at the office bawling her eyes out because of how upset she was. And then they didn't know what to do with her. And then next thing you know, her employees who care about her, and care about each other, are going and ignoring their jobs to go out and put their arms around her and cry with her and trying to encourage her to come back to work or whatever. And then you have a bigger situation. So what happened? She got fired. She got fired because she wasn't doing her work, and now her situation at home was much worse. Don't bring your problems to work. Be somebody that when you're there, and that you're involved. Compliment not just those who are above you, but those that are equal to you and those that are below you as well. Be an encourager. Be someone that other people want to be around. Offer input, not criticism. Have an opinion, an educated opinion, a well-spoken opinion, but do it in such a way that doesn't make your boss look bad, doesn't put other people down, and that they see you as part of the team, that you're able to offer input and then release it for the proper people in leadership to be able to work within those areas. You will be raised up as you offer input. Never be satisfied with your own knowledge. Always look for continuing education. This is important to me as a pastor, that I'm going to conferences, I'm doing online seminars, that I'm taking and doing additional training because my people don't want an uneducated pastor. I don't want to be an uneducated pastor. Your bosses don't want people who are just happy to be competent on the bottom level. Don't bother me and I'll be fine. I just want to get out of here fine. If you show interest in other areas and you continue in your education, you're looking at new softwares and learning these areas, you make yourself a valuable person on that team. Learn about areas outside of your area. If you're in processing, or let's say, go back to my experience, that's all I know. At the I'm doing medical billing, I'm learning about the marketing department, I'm learning a little bit about HR, I'm learning a little bit about dental, just kind of bringing things in and asking people questions and showing I'm interested. I'm in a great position if my position ever gets phased out and they're looking for who to move where and who to let go. If I know some different areas, I become more valuable to the team as a whole. This is kind of an easy one, but it's probably the biggest one I mess up in, is review your emails before you send them. If you're on a job that has communication or typing and memos, review those things. Make sure that you have your spelling right, your grammar right, so that you look educated and you don't undercut yourself by accident. Most of my emails and communications are people that are kind of casual relationships with me, and I tend not to care about those kind of things. But in all honesty, it does say something about myself. I really do watch things I'm sending out to other things from a professional standpoint, so that people don't get the wrong opinion that I don't care, which I kind of don't. But I do care about the message, and I don't want people to lose the message because of the details sometimes. So watch those things. And also deliver before deadlines and without reminders. Just don't need to be babysat. Be a person that's on the team. And that's the next one, is just being somebody that your boss wants on their team. I can tell you that there have been many, many times that I have been in interviews, or I've been talking to people because they want more responsibility in different areas, and they know that I'm kind of that person or that leader that they're going to be reporting to, and they just sell you a great big bill of goods, that they are all in, they're all committed, they want to be on the team, they respect you, they love you, they want to be mentored by you, the whole package. And then when you get them on staff or you give them that responsibility, they become bitter because you have input, or they don't want to do the job, or they become very individualistic, they think they're better than you, they start backstabbing you, trying to get other people around with them, and then also they can't understand why they got fired or why they got relieved from a position or why they didn't get more responsibility. You want to be somebody that your boss wants on their team. You want somebody who is living up to Ephesians 6 and is involved in the team, respect you as a boss, and then follow the proper guidelines to work together. And that's a way that you can be successful within your job. You might say, well, that definitely sounds like a guy who's got a lot of boss experience. Trust me, I've got a lot of just being an employee standpoint too, and I'm about to beat up the bosses a little bit, and I'm just telling you, these things can make a world of difference as far as your atmosphere and also your ministry when you're reaching out to others and they see you as a responsible, diligent disciple of Jesus Christ. So let's read that next one. Ephesians 6:9 is where we're going to go for bosses. We're going to switch to bosses. If you're an employer, if you're a leader, if you have other people that are responding to you, make sure you hear these words. Bosses, treat your employees in the same way that I just command your employees to treat you. What's that mean? Let's go back up. Respect them, have sincerity of heart over them, take and win their favor, not just when they're looking at you, but when you're in a corporate meeting with the other bosses or whatnot. Serving them as you would the Lord. These are things that we are called as bosses to do, to invest into those people that we're responsible for. And that's the first point I have, is to really look at this and realize that you have a trust, a sacred trust, when people are given to you by God to manage over, and that you invest into them and to build them up and not just use them as an end to a means yourself. We see in Deuteronomy 24:14, it says, don't take advantage of a hired man who's poor and needy, whether he's a Christian or not a Christian. Don't take advantage of people. Don't treat them like they're just another tool, but invest into them, that we've been given a sacred trust with people to build them up and to mentor and to invest into them. Let me give you some tips here. If you're an employer, be a good listener. Encourage brainstorming. Get ideas from people. Let them have ownership in different areas. This is something that sometimes I'm the best at and sometimes I'm the worst at. But it's important that we work on this art as leaders. I remember I was just watching this past week, kind of behind the scenes, they came on the Blu-ray of Jurassic Park, a movie I liked from 20 years ago. And I was watching it, and they were interviewing the actor who played Timmy. If you remember what Jurassic Park, the little boy that was in there. Now he's an adult, and they were interviewing him about his memories of working on the film. And he was saying that he had very fond memories of working on Jurassic Park, that Steven Spielberg had spent a lot of time with them as the kids, and he would play with them and hang out with them. But that he would also throw in things like, what do you think of this next scene? Or what do you think Timmy would do in this situation? Or what do you think about him saying this? Does that work, or what do you think? And they were allowed to throw out ideas and allowed to have input and to try things on film for those roles, and a lot of those things made him into the film. And that he never felt like he was a kid on the screen. He felt like he was part of the team. And the reason for this is because Steven Spielberg is really good at what he does. And he's a really good leader. And he brings the best out of people because he gives them the best environments to thrive in. And that's what makes people feel valued. And that's what we're called to do, is to get their input, let them have ownership. Doesn't mean you agree with them every time, but they know that they've been heard every time. And that you give them that kind of environment is important. And quite frankly, they might have a better idea than you, believe it or not. They might have a different experience or a different thing that throw into there that you've not considered, and you'll be better off for it when you get to the end. Be one of those bosses where the blame stops here. Be one of those bosses where the blame stops here. If something falls through, especially if you're in the loop, make sure it falls on you. Say, if nothing else, that your co-workers or your boss knows that you're one of those people that says, you know what, I'm going to check into it, it's never going to happen again, but you got my word on it because this is on me. I'm the leader of that department, that's on me. Again, especially if you're in the loop, don't throw somebody else underneath the bus. Never. Okay, anyways, don't throw them underneath the bus if you're the one that made that decision. Don't use other people as scapegoats. Don't treat people like that. It's known. If you've done it once, it's known in your environment. People talk about those things, and it goes through like wildfire. Be somebody who stands up for your employees and those that you report to you. Even if you weren't in the loop, say, you know what, I don't know a lot about that, but I know my team, and I should have been on top of that, and I'm going to go find out where that breakdown was, and I apologize, and it won't happen again. Being that person that's up front, and being able to stand behind your employees and they know you stand behind them. An instance I gave Sunday is an example of this. We have a friend of mine who, his family came here for a couple of years, they left for a couple of years, and they moved up north, and they came back, and he's come back on our team as our youth coordinator. His name's Joe, great guy, great family guy. And I really enjoyed Joe quite a bit. And it was a couple months ago, I was out of town for a weekend, and Joe was going to do the message, and he's going to do the service, and we decided to make it a youth service, that the kids were going to be involved. And so he picked out the music and made out the message, and One of the things we do is I like to have good communication. I like to have the people in my church covered through communication. So we set up a time to go over what they were going to do and what they weren't going to do, so we were both in the loop together. And he came to me and said, you know, I've got all this set up and I got the kids already practicing, you know, a couple of these songs. But one of the songs was kind of like a punk rock version of Amazing Grace, and he was a little bit nervous about it. Like, is anybody going to get upset about this song? And he was really kind of concerned about it, and this makes sense. Like this appearance that the new guy's here, and the first chance that Tom leaves town, he's going to come in and do things in this crazy way. Like maybe he was trying to sneak something in, and he didn't want to give that appearance. So he communicated it well. And basically what I knew about all church folks is they roll with things pretty well, and that they probably weren't going to have a problem with the music. So that was the first thing I shared with him. But if they do, if anybody comes to you and says, man, what was this? Take and say, hey, I ran this by Tom and he was cool with it, so don't be mad at me. You know, we're going to be mad at Tom. You know, now it's on me. Now I'm covering my employees with my permission and my communication. And if they came to me and just said, hey, you know, while you were gone, do you know what Joe did? Yeah, I do. We communicated about it. I was right on board with that. That was cool. Well, I'm sorry, would that bother you? Oh, man, hey, Amazing Grace is a great song. And I thought it rocked. And I thought it was a great opportunity for our kids to worship and invite you to worship with them. That put us all on the same page. Be that person where the buck stops here through communication and respect of those that work with you. Mentor people. Look for people that need to be invested into and invest into. Well, I don't have the time, I'm not paid for that. Trust me, it pays off to take and invest in others. Communicate well. If you think you communicate well now, ask people if you're communicating well. Make sure that you're doing the best you can through all kinds of forms of communication. Have good morale. You're the one that leads that in your area. Provide an environment that's fun and encouraging and engaging for people. I remember when I was at Corso, which was an insurance company, the first one I worked at, we had a boss named Brian Lewis. And Brian was a little nutty sometimes, but he was a good boss. He had no problem having the buck stop with him. He had no problem shooting straight. People come in and say, I need a raise or I'm leaving. Well, you know what? You're a great team member. We like you on the team. We have no more finances to give you a raise right now. Right now, you're really not at a place where you deserve a raise yet. So if you need to go elsewhere, we understand that, and I'll invite you to a letter of recommendation. He's just a very straight shooter. But one of the things he also did is just brought fun into the environment. We had quality insurance stuff, and I was on the team that did awards and whatnot with him, and he was the chair of the committee. And he got this wood plaque for like Employee of the Month. And whenever we did it, this guy in his business suit and all his professionalism, he would come out with his jam box playing something that was probably going to be Beatles or classic rock, and he'd march like an idiot with the rest of us walking behind him going like this. So we were kind of embarrassed by the whole thing until he got to the desk of the person that got it. He would climb up on their desk and say, everybody come here, this is what a great job this person's doing, and I got this crazy game, I've got this crazy idea, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And it really brought some fun. Now granted, he was the one that everybody was like, oh dude, but when it was time to be the boss, he was the boss, and when it was time to bring morale, he was the boss and brought the morale. Look for those kind of opportunities. Provide the needed resources that your staff needs. Don't overlook those things. Fight for the budget to give the resources and the tools that your staff needs, or else they'll feel undercut, undervalued, and they will not be a good member on your team. Recognize employees. Understand the personal. This is going to be the opposite of what I said to employees. Don't bring your personal life to your work, which is true, but sometimes personal life happens at work. And so taking and respecting that and investing into them in a way that does not take away from their individuality and their performance. At that same place, at Brian Lewis, he was great. I just loved him as a boss. I learned a lot from him as a boss. But there's another boss who was kind of his equal. Her name was Carolyn. I don't remember her last name because I just didn't like her, to be honest. She wasn't inspiring. She was rude. She didn't care about her employees. She would come into any particular area and you could be working hard and she'd be, are we all gainfully employed? Is everybody doing their job? Just trust me, I'm doing my job. And if I'm not doing my job, then yeah. I mean, it was this uncomfortable situation all the way through. And one of my friends, while she was at work, got news. She had a troubled marriage. Got news that her marriage just fell apart. And she just lost it. They're in the records department. She's crying. And other people are like, what happened? What happened? Well, she just found out that her husband wants a divorce. Right in the middle of the workday. Well, what do you do with that? I'll tell you what this boss did. She came in, she got the woman, took her up to a conference room, led her into the conference room, and then shut the door behind herself as she left her there. because she just wanted her client away from the workforce and it was affecting anybody else. She didn't console her. She didn't get any of her friends with her. She didn't get HR to come over and be there with her. She didn't say, why don't you take the rest of the day off? And it was demeaning to this woman in the middle of her challenge and what she was going through. Be a better boss than that. Take and give a little leeway and care about your people. And do not be blasé about your work. For any of us, employee or boss, don't be blasé about your work. Realize that this matters, that we are blessed and we are called to a purpose, and that we're being used by God. Now, for some of us, we have to make some decisions off of these things. Maybe we need to make a decision to start looking for another job. Maybe we have to make a decision to try again and start putting applications out there, or to learn new skills to make it easier for us to find a job. Some of us need to say, you know what, I need to be a boss like Christ, and I need to take and love my people better. I need to be brokenhearted about my people that trust me for 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. There's a lot of decisions you might have to make, or I might need to make as we listen to these things and get into the scripture. But understand this, the workplace is a vital area of our life, a vital area of our ministry, a vital area that brings provision for our home as well as lets us be used in our mission fields. And it's going to be a bigger discussion, a bigger prayer, a bigger planning session, a bigger time to write down new ideas of new ways than just, I need to work so I can get a paycheck so I can kind of pay the bills. It's so much bigger. Be the best for God in the areas that He's entrusted you into. Be the best so that other people see Jesus Christ through you. And I'm telling you, you can raise up out of this situation. It does not have to be muck and mire. It doesn't have to be crisis. But we can start working forward to freedom in the area of the workplace. So that's my thoughts. I appreciate you guys rolling with me on this. I'll give you a couple other scriptures to think about as we're coming to an end. Acts 20:35 says, in everything that they did, they showed that by hard work, that kind of hard work, that we must help the weak, remembering the words of Jesus Himself, saying it's more blessed to give than receive, to encourage you to take and invest into others through your hard work. 1 Corinthians 4:12, we work hard with our own hands. When we are cursed, we bless. When we are persecuted, we endure it. 1 Thessalonians 4:11, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your hands, just as we told you to do. 2 Thessalonians 3:10, for even when we were with you, we gave you this rule, if a man does not work, he shall not eat. Not pulling any punches. Colossians 3:23, probably the best one for us to stand on. Whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart. Whatever you do, do it and work at it with all of your heart, as if you're working for the Lord and not for men. I know some of us are struggling, you guys. I'm keeping you in prayer. We're going to continue this RISE series. We're looking at Christian community and how important it is within our spiritual walk, and probably the most important topic we've talked about so far this Sunday. But for today, just focus on this. What's God calling you to do in your work life? And then do it to the glory of His name.